Welcome to Your Future in Sales and Marketing, a podcast that helps you make great career decisions to get the most out of your career journey. We'll introduce you to the AXR network of established senior leaders and a handpicked group of future aspiring leaders who have it all in front of them. You'll learn what it's like in the top job and how to get there. Your hosts from AXR's specialist sales and marketing recruitment team will also land bonus episodes for you on how to work with recruiters, write a resume, and smash an interview, as well as our very popular market updates. It's the podcast that has it all. You can't get this career advice anywhere else.
Welcome, everybody, to Your Future in Sales and Marketing. My name is Mike Dixon, Director of AXR Sales and Marketing Practice. We're joined in the studio today by Grant Howard, General Manager of Fevertree, and Alanna Gibson, Head of Strategy for Fevertree. Welcome to the pod, Grant and Alanna. How are you guys?
Thank you for having us, Mike.
Very well, thank you. We're delighted to be here.
Great. Looking forward to this conversation. Lots to get through, and I enjoy having two guests on. We're going to explore two different career paths, both very different. And as usual, get into your roles, what they do, and they're ever evolving as well. I think a particular interest in yours, Alanna, because head of strategy is not the role we often see in the businesses we work with, but I'm really interested in digging into that. And it's an evolving role too. And we'll finish off on some advice you've got from our listeners too. But before we get really stuck into it, let's learn a bit more about you guys. Everyone's favorite question is your favorite brand. Grant, let's start with you. What's your favorite brand? And you can't pick Fevertree or a brand you've worked on.
Yeah. It made me think, actually, because I go to a brand within the line portfolio, but it would have to be Qantas. So when I look outside the FMCG space, I look at the journey that Qantas has been on as a business over the last 10 years. So at the height of COVID, they were sort of a media darling because they were still able to operate. They were bringing vaccines into the country. They were bringing people home from foreign countries, and then within a short space of time, they became a media pariah because a couple of senior people in the business sort of blew themselves up. But if I look at where that brand is now, it's still inextricably linked into the mind space of a consumer, a premium traveller. Right. So a traveller who is looking for a premium experience gravitates towards Qantas. So irrespective of what goes on in the external environment, challenges within their public relations, that brand seems to be wedded in the same consumer space of consumers.
Yeah, it's very resilient, isn't it?
It's very resilient.
Given the absolute bashing it took under the CEO. Joyce. But it's a lot better, isn't it? So
it is,
and it feels like it's kind of coming back. A lot more now. But good choice.
A very resilient brand.
Good choice. Alanna, what are you going to pick?
Well, I'll stay a bit closer to home in the FMCG world and pick Heaps Normal, the non-alcoholic beer brand. I just think that they disrupted the industry in such a simple way and really reframed what it means to drink a non-alcoholic drink. Because before them, you used to really just order a non-alcoholic version of something like a wine, a non-alcoholic beer, is 0% this or that. And now with Heaps Normal coming along, who've created a fantastic product that tastes just like the real beer, they've made it feel like you're really getting the full experience and you're getting something that is not a compromise. And I think that's really awesome. And it makes you feel almost proud to be not drinking and come across, kind of like who gives a toss what other people think. I'm gonna drink a Heaps Normal and feel proud of it, and it normalizes it. So I think that's a really cool thing that they've done for the industry.
Yeah, good brand. I go through phases of I love beer. I go through phases of not drinking alcohol, and Heaps Normal. I've tried them all. And it's the best. Sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brilliant. Okay, so let's Alanna, we'll continue with you. Before we get to your career journey, let's find out where you're from. Life before the career started.
Yeah. So no surprises. I'm from the UK originally. So from a town called York in the north of England. And from a young age, I was actually very entrepreneurial. I actually loved working. And alongside my whole school life, I pretty much had sort of part-time jobs, working on lemonade stands and crepe stands and ice cream stalls in York City Centre, which, ignited a bit of a passion for business, I'd say. And that took me to do a business degree at Bath University in the south of England, which was an awesome course because I got to do 2 6-month internships and really, get embedded into businesses. And also it took me to Australia. So I did a 6-month exchange program with the University of Queensland. That's where my love of Australia began. And that's pretty much what brought me back, to be honest. So, and then I started my career after that.
Fantastic. We'll get into the career in a second, but just you're a great place. I just imagine you with your little lemonade stand in New York.
Honestly, I loved it. I had a bit of an addiction to working, and I don't know why, but here we are. So
all the other kids are running around and Alanna's making money.
I loved it. Saving up for my first Xbox was a real milestone.
It's funny how a podcast helps you learn more about colleagues. I didn't know about the 6 months in Queensland.
All right. Grant, reveal all. Where are you from?
Born and bred in Sydney. Yep. Grew up on the Northern Beaches. So I went to school at an all-boys school, St Augustine's College, which the culture has changed over time, but that was an incredibly important period in my life, 8 years at St Augustine's. The friends that I met during those 8 years, many of them I still have strong friendships with today. When I finished school, I then went to the University of Newcastle and did a Bachelor of Business. And like Alanna, the part-time jobs that I was in, so the National Australia Bank, Woolworths, really gave me a passion for customer service and sales. And so that's how I guess my career started.
Fantastic. Well, I'm not born and bred Beaches, but spent a long time living there. So I'm with you. Lived not too far from St Augs College. So lots of my kids' friends went there.
Yes.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Staying with you, Grant, let's do careers. We'll do one at a time, so to make it make sense to our listeners. So you talked earlier about spent a long time at Lion. Your key kind of strength through that time was sales. But you also, 20 years? So what kept you there?
It was 16 years. If I
16. All right.
You're making me feel very old.
I'm over-egging it here.
16 years. Yeah. Look, Lion is a business that has an incredible culture. And that was professionally where I really grew up. And they gave me an opportunity to really diversify my experiences across customers, across different categories. They invested in my education and they spent a lot of time working with employees around developing their emotional intelligence and their behaviours. That was a real point of difference with Lion between many other FMCG organisations. But it got to the point in my career after 16 years where I just felt like I had stopped learning, right? So realistically, I probably could have stayed there for another 10 or 15 years. But I didn't want to be that person who in their mid-50s had run out of career runway, right? So I wanted to challenge myself and continue learning. But the brands, the people that still work there are deeply linked to my emotional psyche. Right. So it's very difficult when I'm in an on-premise environment and a friend buys me an Asahi beer. I do drink that. I drink that beer through gritted teeth.
Yeah.
So, it's a wonderful business. And having been at a number of customer forums earlier this year, it's really good to see them back winning customer engagement awards, being recognized for the work that they do. So.
Yeah, we had Kez Apithurai, the current sales director of the pod, maybe 15 episodes or so ago. And actually, I remember talking to Kez about the Lion renaissance, the resurgence again, and quietly winning in market for a number of quarters in a row. So, and, no doubt, as a result, getting awards as well because of it. So good to see them back.
Yeah, absolutely.
And competing very well. Yeah. And for you, over that 16 years, was there a particular role that was transformative that kind of helped accelerate you?
There is. So I found myself bouncing around at a national account manager level. So I'd looked after Dan Murphy's, had come across from the grocery side of the business at a national account manager level. And when I look back on my career, one of the things that's probably held me back is probably a lack of confidence. And so there was a role advertised internally, which was a national business manager for IBA. So I went through the process and it got down to the final two. And I hazard a guess that I was the second preferred candidate, right? So as fate happens, the preferred candidate fell over. So the preferred candidate was an external candidate. Something happened during the recruitment process and I ended up getting the role. So when I took over responsibility for that account, Lion was ranked 17th in the Advantage Group survey. So I spent a lot of time working with the customer over the first 6 months of my time in that role, listening about all of the challenges that Lion was creating that particular customer. And then I worked with a couple of internal stakeholders to really turn that business around along with the other people that I was working with. And I'm really proud to say that over a 3-year period, we went from 17th in the Advantage Group survey to number 1. And we started growing market share again. We started growing revenue. And I think that gave me the confidence to really accelerate my career and back myself. And for me, that was a transformative moment because I was lacking that confidence. But over a course of 2 and 3 years, I found an ability to believe in myself.
That's a great story, and well done. Great. From 17 to first, that's not easy.
No.
Did you have much support there from a leadership perspective, mentors, or is it you just finding that confidence yourself?
Well, that is one of the benefits of Lion. It's obviously a big organisation with lots of support functions around. So there were plenty of senior leaders at the business during that time that were able to counsel me through what had happened historically. So I was walking in sort of eyes wide open. And I think that in part probably gave me the confidence to address really some of the burning issues that were stopping Lion from doing more business with IBA. So Lion as a culture was incredibly supportive, and there were senior leaders in the business at that time that were able to help me and coach me through that process.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned Lion, great business, great culture. You were there sometime, and I did a lot of interesting roles there, mainly in that sales space. Did you look at kind of developing breadth and other functions? Did that happen, or were you just enjoying sales so much that was what you wanted to kind of, the path you wanted to keep on?
I get positive energy from customer conversations.
Yeah.
So as many of your listeners would be aware, not every customer conversation is easy. Some of them are confronting. Some of them are very, very challenging. But when I walk away from most customer conversations, I feel energized. And so for me, I'm naturally drawn to the customer. So I did think about a cross-functional role, but where I ended up was actually doing my MBA, which was sponsored by Lion, which gave me an ability to broaden the breadth of my academic thinking and give me exposure to different cross functions within a traditional MBA program. So while that was not necessarily on the job learning, it was academic learning, which I've been able to transfer to my current role. In hindsight, I should have done other cross-functional roles earlier on in my career, but I'm just so passionate about the customer. That was probably attracted me to the sales function.
And the purpose of the pod is to talk about everyone's journey. And yes, I mean, probably one of the common themes we talk to is getting breadth, but actually, as you say there, you whilst you've got functional, you're more linear functionally to actually add the academic breadth and the breadth of thinking. It's still creating breadth in a different way, and it hasn't stopped you getting to be a general manager. So
no.
There we go. It's worked out.
No. And there's no one right pathway.
Correct. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And before we move on to Alanna, I just want to talk a bit about the shift. So great journey within Lion. You mentioned earlier on, it kind of got to the point the learning had stopped for you. And obviously with that MBA, there's clearly a growth mindset, a desire to keep pushing and learning. Why Fever-Tree?
So at the time, Andy Gaunt was the managing director of Fever-Tree. And I knew Andy through the industry, and there was an opportunity that was coming on the horizon for Fever-Tree where they were going to change their business model. And it was looking at creating a subsidiary within Australia, which would mean that we would onshore production, we would set up our own sales force, our own sales team. So all of the skills that I would gather from those key actions, so creating a sales culture, creating sales discipline, sales skills, onboarding or production, they were things that I couldn't do at Lion because that was already an established FMCG business. So it was a real risk for me jumping out of my comfort zone because at the time, the business case to change the model wasn't signed off. So I left Lion, which was a well-functioning business with a great culture, in the hope that there would be an opportunity to develop some skills that I didn't have. So it was a risk. But that risk, I think, has paid off because I've met wonderful colleagues like Alanna and the other people that we work with. And we've been on a real journey over the last 2.5 years to go and set up our own subsidiary. So I think all of us have had plenty of sleepless nights. It's been a challenge, but the business is very well set up for growth now with the new model.
Fantastic. And, the contrast of a business like Fever-Tree to Lion is huge, right?
Huge,
so talk about breadth. And that creates a brand new experience. And you're now general manager, promoted not that long ago to general manager. How's that transition been?
Well, it's important for me to note that I'm the co-general manager.
Co-general manager.
I'm sure Luca will be.
Of course.
Will be listening to this podcast. Hello, Luca. So it's been a really interesting journey. So we mentioned Andy Gaunt, who was the managing director. The reality is that Alanna and I probably wouldn't be at Fever-Tree without Andy creating the vision for the business model and setting up the subsidiary in Australia. So we're incredibly grateful for the work that Andy did do. But there was an opportunity for us moving into the role, both Luca and I, supported by Alanna and the colleagues back in the office, to actually look at the model as it was there were certain assumptions built into the business case that just simply hadn't transpired. So the last 8 months in the role has been challenging. We've had to look at the cost base. We've had to make some adjustments to our model, which every FMCG business in the market at the moment is probably doing, or at least looking at. But positively, we're now set up for a really good period of growth. We've right-sized the business, right-sized the resources, given ourselves an opportunity to look at what are the channels we need to resource behind. And I'm sure Alanna will touch on it later, but we're evolving our brand portfolio, right? So we needed to change the model anyway. So it's been a busy 8 months. Yeah. A very busy 8 months.
Right. More to dig into there.
Yep.
Right. Alanna, let's get into your career journey. So non-conventional for FMCG. A lot of our guests have come, not all, but a lot have come from the FMCG path. But you started in consulting. How does a career in consulting commence? How do you get into that?
Good question, because to be honest, I had no idea what a consultant was when I was about 18 and starting my career journey. So essentially, consulting is, how I like to say it, is it's like being a doctor for businesses. And what that means is you kind of come in to businesses and help them with their problems, their challenges, opportunities they're looking for. And from an external perspective, right, it might be that they don't have the resource, or they want fresh thinking, or they don't have the expertise. So that was just very cool to me. But I guess I thought, how does someone who's just finishing uni get into that? And do I have the skills, and how does that work? But I found out quite early on, and I actually did a Future Leaders Spring Week with McKinsey. And I kind of got thrown into what that world's all about. And what I soon found out was what I feel like it is just like a career that you can kickstart, and it's basically like a boot camp that helps you build all these skills and all this experience in a very fast-paced manner. So yes, it is late days, working weekends, often a lot of travel, but you get thrown into businesses and you help them with these really interesting, exciting problems, and you build up a skill set that I think is just so transferable across different industries. And that's the great thing about consulting. And the diversity of things I did is actually crazy when I think about it, like going and doing a market expansion project for a fast food chain, or going and working on a loyalty program building for a retailer. And even things like I was doing a anti-money laundering plan for a European country, and I'd fly out there Monday to Thursday every week. So very crazy things, but it meant I just had such a great experience, like trying all these different things and understanding what I did and didn't want to do, I suppose, in a risk-free environment in a way. So you get to try a lot of things and not have to change jobs, but just change project, which is
hugely stimulating.
Very stimulating.
What a variety of things to do. I want to. I'm naturally inclined, as I noticed our producer Darcy nodding his head in the corner when he heard about money laundering, thinking, how'd you get into that?
I know.
How'd you get into that?
Yeah.
But anyway, we could be here forever. But
anti-money laundering, may I say?
Sorry. How'd you get to money laundering? Correct. Anti-money laundering.
We weren't helping them. We were helping them stop it. May I please confirm that?
Yes. Very distinct point. So you mentioned earlier you got to Australia and you came with the consulting firm you were with Oliver Wyman at the time. Was that driven by them or by you?
So it was definitely driven by me. So the good thing is that they were an international company. So I knew that there was opportunity to go to different countries potentially and transfer offices. But as I mentioned before, I came out to Australia on a 6-month exchange program to the University of Queensland, and I absolutely fell in love with the country. And ever since I went back to the UK and I finished my degree and I was in consulting, I thought, I just want to get back to Australia. Like, it's an incredible country, such good opportunity there. So I basically said, look, I really want to move internationally to Australia. They did say there's no space. No, that's not an option. You could do this. You could go to Dubai. You could go to other places. But I was like, no, Australia is the one for me. So after a few months of kind of back and forth, basically I said, look, if you can't take me, I'm going to have to go. I'm going to move anyway because it's where I'm going to follow my heart. But then, funnily enough, a bit of a manifest destiny, they ended up saying, okay, we'll take you there. So I managed to transfer. Yeah, I was serious. I managed to transfer with Oliver Wyman and spend, so a couple of years in the Sydney office here working with various retail and consumer goods clients, which I guess helped me understand the industry here in Australia because it is quite different. Like, you think about the grocery market here, you've got 2 major retailers. The UK, you've got 5, 6. It's a very different industry in a lot of senses. So it was good to, I guess, get that experience from a consulting side before deciding to move into industry.
And the move to industry, specifically Fevertree, did you see yourself always moving into industry or how did that kind of happen?
Yeah, look, you never know when you start a career. Could have thought I'd be a consultant forever. But I think after a few years, I realized like this is an awesome experience, but it's not forever for me. And one of the key reasons for that is you're jumping around project to project, which is exciting, but you're not necessarily seeing things through end to end. So we would go in and help build a strategy and create nice decks. That's what consultants are known for. But then you kind of leave it over to them and you hope that they're going to implement it and you assume they will, but they won't necessarily. And you just don't know, right? You don't have that power to actually execute and see things through. So I suppose I knew I probably wouldn't always stay in consulting. I'd get the toolkit, I'd get the skills, and then I'd go and embed them into a company. And I suppose I gravitated to consumer goods because, well, firstly, I had already aligned into that practice in consulting. But I guess similar to Grant, like I just love the consumer, the customer. For me, I want to work in a tangible industry, not nothing like B2B, which is what I'd been doing essentially in client-based projects. So yeah, I wanted to go into a company that I knew had a great product that I believed in and help it, I guess, do better. Was the goal.
And what was it about Fevertree that attracted you?
Well, look, coming from the UK, I knew Fevertree very well, and I was already a massive advocate of the brand, and the Med Tonic was going in all my gins. So that helps. You've got to love the brand. But I guess similar to Grant, right, the time in which we came into Fevertree was so exciting. So it is a very established brand in the UK. We're number one market share. But here in Australia, we were only just really getting started. So when I joined, we were at about 10% market share. We're now at 21, so over 5 years. So that's a good thing. But essentially, just felt like it was a great time to join. And it's a growing company. It was still quite small and almost scrappy when we joined. And I think that's exciting. Going from consulting, which was really kind of like process driven and very shiny in a way, going into something and just getting your hands dirty and a bit more skin in the game, I suppose, was something that I really was excited for with Fevertree.
Yeah, we work with a lot of smaller businesses as well as mid-size and large. And the contrast is huge. You go to a large tier one, which we do work with a lot. By definition, they're fully evolved. They're looking for incremental gains and big strategic shift is hard to do. Whereas when you're in a business that yours, which has still got a long journey ahead of it, there's lots of big decisions you can make to kind of twist and turn. You can do it quickly.
Yeah.
And the growth is interesting, which we'll get into. So firstly, Alanna, your role as head of strategy.
Yes.
It won't make a lot of sense to a lot of people in FMCG because they won't necessarily have that role.
Yeah.
But let's bring it to life so it becomes more familiar.
Yes, yeah, of course. So as my role in head of strategy is very broad, to be honest. So one big part of it is the kind of what you'd think of as more strategy, which is the kind of classic business strategy. So helping develop our 3-year strategy, our annual plans, the direction for the business essentially. And with that also comes strategic projects. So when I started off, this whole business model reshaping was a big thing that I helped with. So how do we set up the Australia subsidiary? How do we onshore production? Where do we go? So big meaty projects, which kind of were similar to consulting. But then what I guess has been quite different and new from the consulting days is actually getting involved with category strategy. So a lot of big businesses will have that as a whole separate team, but being quite small and nimble, that sits with me as well. So running category strategy, really love being involved with like the customer side of things. And then I guess another part of it is really business partnering with our team. So sales, marketing, finance, ops. I think having a strategy lens across all functions is extremely important. So I'd like to think that I essentially business partner with across the team and basically give them support, advice, like, have you thought about this? Like, let's think about this from a strategic lens. Like, what are we trying to solve? So just embedding that capability across the team to make Fevertree as a whole a really strategic business, not just a silo in one role or one part of the business. Yeah. That's really important.
Really interesting role. Did that role exist before or was that a role that you and Luca created?
No, it existed before.
Did it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But Alanna's role will evolve, or is evolving. So you'll take over responsibility for the New Zealand country. So we've got a distributor in New Zealand. So the good thing about how we work together as a team is that we're a very flat structure, right? So in order to maintain engagement and ensure that people are on an ongoing learning journey, we've got to look at ways to continue to motivate people, ways to inspire people to make sure that they've got that ongoing learning journey. And I think a big opportunity for Alanna next year is taking on the leadership of the New Zealand marketplace role whilst managing the strategy work that she currently does do.
I think it's a fantastic role. To all my clients, you need a head of strategy.
Yeah. I really advocate.
We'd love to recruit a whole bunch of them. What a great role.
And I do think it is a great way to get experience across all the functions, right? And I do think that sets you up in a really good position, right? So my goal going in the future is to be a general manager one day or really own a business function for a bigger company. And so I think that having that broad ability to be across the whole business really sets you up for success because you know more than just your area, right? You know all parts of the business, which is an exciting place to be.
Agreed. Let's talk a bit about Fevertree because I think it's a brand, well, I think it's a brand with high recognition in Australia now. But perhaps, Grant, tell us where we are on the journey, maybe a bit of an elevator pitch on where Fevertree is right now.
So our consumer awareness is relatively high amongst gin and tonic drinkers, right? Because for the last
is it right? Okay.
For the last 10 years in Australia, we've been primarily talking to consumers who are looking to elevate the quality of their gin and tonic. As a brand, over the last 6 months, both in Australia and globally, we've reappraised our portfolio strategy. So we want to move away from just being anchored in that gin and tonic occasion or even the mixing occasion, because you can use Fevertree with their sodas to mix with vodka or tequila as well. So we want to be more meaningful to a much larger cohort of consumers. And that's where we're talking about this pivot into adult sophisticated soft drinks. It's interesting that Fevertree can play within or intersect 3 different consumer trends. So we know that consumers are abstaining from drinking alcohol. Consumers are moderating. So they're either having less alcoholic occasions or they're drinking overall less alcoholic drinks. And then for those who are engaging in the alcoholic occasion, then they want to drink lighter styles. So Fevertree as a brand almost can join up those 3 independent consumer trends. So now we're focused on becoming more meaningful and more aware to consumers who are looking for an adult sophisticated soft drink. And that may involve alcohol or it may not involve alcohol. So got a very big job to do. Our awareness amongst the broader drinks consumers is low. So we've got to spend a lot of time and a lot of money investing in the messaging around why a consumer who is abstaining from alcohol or moderating, why they should choose Fevertree, how they would drink Fevertree and when they would drink Fevertree. So that's realistically our big job to be done in the next 2 to 3 years, is to build awareness amongst a much larger consumer cohort.
Fantastic. So there's a real strategic shift there, which then requires a big execution plan to bring that to life. So does that kind of change the way in which you're measured in your role? Or is it just a kind of, you measure the same, the strategy evolves, but you're still looking at, trying to hit your numbers and growth targets?
The immediate focus for both Luca and I is just to manage effectively our P&L.
Yeah.
Right. So from revenue right through to net contribution, which is our definition for profit, to make sure that every dollar that we're investing through the P&L, whether it's with trade spend, whether it's with marketing, or whether it's investing in our supply chain, that we're getting a good return on investment for every dollar that we are investing right through. So that's realistically the focus for the team for the next 12 months, to make sure that the business is on a sustainable growth trajectory. So growing at 12, 13, 14%, which is good for an established FMCG business in Australia, but to do that profitably. So that's what traditionally we're focused on. We're also KPI'd as general managers and as a team as market share growth within core mixes. So Alanna mentioned that we've taken our growth from 10 to 22%. So we're constantly focused on within core mixes, and we grow our share of that category. That's simultaneously while growing consumer awareness, to make sure that the consumers who are not aware of the Fevertree as a brand and the role that it plays, to engage with them meaningfully with the creative that we take from our global marketing team. And then I guess from a people perspective, to make sure that we're setting up a culture that is a high performing culture, because we are a small team and we have a big job to be done with a very small team. So there's no luxury in hoping that someone else in the organisation will do it, which may play out in other much larger organisations. The breadth in our roles is large, right? So as a general manager, I'm doing things that maybe most other general managers wouldn't do, but somebody's got to do it within the organisation. Likewise for Alanna as head of strategy and head of country manager, there's things that you do that traditionally others wouldn't do in other organisations.
Grant likes to pack his own orders. So,
we are a very small organisation with a very big job to be done.
Yeah. When Andrew Kennett, my colleague, and I were in your office a couple of weeks ago, prepping for the pod, one of the things I said to you guys was that the vibe is palpable. It felt very buzzy, very collaborative. There was lots happening. You don't often get that. We visit a lot of offices. And the general feedback we get from offices is it's normally busier in here. You're like, when is it busier? But yours is genuinely really, really busy. And so you've got a really nice atmosphere. And it felt great. So congrats on where you've got the business.
Thank you.
And lots,
it is a bit of a family though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Camaraderie. Yeah. We all get stuck in. And we've been through a lot together. Like the business has changed a lot. And I think it's just, good to have people by your side that you can share your feelings with and just discuss what we've been through and actually how much we've achieved in a short space of time.
Yeah.
And talking about that, so you've got this collaborative culture, which I really felt when I was in. So that's super clear what your KPIs are. But as you said, Grant, that said, your role evolves, stretches, because that's what you do in a business of your size. Does that flow through, Alanna, to you? Same sort of KPIs and for you as well?
Essentially, yeah. So we've got, as Grant kind of went through, a mix of kind of commercial, but also consumer KPIs and market share. And I think we basically have tried to simplify, like we can't do everything and we shouldn't track everything. Let's really simplify to what our key KPIs are as a business, as a leadership team as well. So I wouldn't say I've got completely different ones to Grant or Caroline, our head of marketing. We have aligned on a clear set of goals and we are all chasing the same ones.
Yeah.
I think being in a strategy, it sometimes feels difficult because it's a lot harder to measure success as well. Sales might be, you've got a target and it's clear if you've hit it or not. But I have a role to help the sales team and deliver that target in different ways. So I don't think that necessarily functions need different targets. I think it's about, as a business, being really clear what you're chasing and making sure every person has a part to play in that and not be like, well, that's your goal, that's mine. So I think that I have pretty much the same goals as Grant, I would say.
Yeah. But it's interesting too, because imagine because you're working across every function, Alanna, you're ensuring there's a strategic alignment, there's a synergy. Yeah. And that the KPIs do ladder back up to strategy and you don't get distracted by, perhaps you can get distracted by short-term goals as opposed to, are we on strategy?
Exactly. And I think that's the power of a strategy role is thinking top down. So bigger picture, like where do we want to be? What are we going to go after? What are the big bets? And then just almost funneling down through the business to go, okay, let's align at this level. Now the next step is to say who's going to do what in the plan. And then the next step is to go, okay, what's everyone going to be targeting? And it kind of funnels down. But I think sometimes, especially when people are busy, you can quickly go to let's just chase opportunities and execute. But I think it's so important.
Which is often the concern of a smaller business. You get distracted with a commercial opportunity in front of you.
Exactly.
Which is why I think the strategy is so important to not lose sight of that.
And I think that you'll find there's more strategy roles in these more small mid businesses because especially as you're setting up, you need that way of thinking. So I think once you get to bigger size businesses, then maybe strategy dissolves a bit and it gets embedded in the business. But I just think for a business like ours, it's so important to have that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'd love to hear what you guys think, our big listenership, because I think we're probably stimulating a lot of thought here around who does that role in our business and what contribution can I make? Because if you're not clear on how your role contributes to strategy, then you should be.
100%. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So your role's evolving, Alanna. You're now taking on New Zealand next year. So congrats for that. Is that you starting to move towards more functional roles or do you always want to keep a foot in strategy as well?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. My absolute passion is with strategy, but ultimately I think, as I kind of alluded to, you don't necessarily have a clear, if I do this, then I can see the results, right? In terms of it's a bit more potentially conceptual and you have to rely on other people to kind of go through and execute within their functions. And I guess I kind of want a bit more skin in the game. And I absolutely love working particularly with sales and marketing teams. So essentially I'm gravitating towards that. I'm also, I guess, longer term looking at that kind of just business management essentially. And I think, as I said, being in strategy, you get to put your finger in any pies and get that skill set. So for me, so next year taking on basically New Zealand country manager role, which is really, really exciting. And I think that's basically the first step on that next step of my career, which is having that end-to-end ownership and I suppose a bit more tangible like this is my responsibility,
yeah,
and I'm
your
gonna,
number that you're responsible for.
Exactly. And I think I crave that in a way.
That's great.
Yeah, so that's the next step. Still keeping my finger in the pie of strategy though.
Wow.
So yeah, it's kind of double hatting, essentially doing the head of strategy for the region, Australia, New Zealand, but also taking on that country manager role.
And category strategy, I say triple hatting probably. But.
Well, yeah, I don't have enough hours in the day, but as I said from the beginning, I love to work. So
yeah, exactly. You've got your lemonade stall in North Sydney on a lunchtime.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah. Excellent. And as you're building that path to general manager down the line, I think you're grasping all the right things, as well. So I can't wait to see where that takes you.
Thank you.
What about you, Grant? So you are co-general manager role with Luca. Again, another shout out to him. But where does your career go from here?
I'm very fascinated to learn more about different facets of an FMCG business, right? So as we touched on earlier, yes, my functional strength is in sales, but I'm genuinely interested in learning more about marketing, learning more about supply chain, and the role that I'm in now, and supported by some incredibly talented colleagues who look after those functional responsibilities. I want to learn as much that I can from them, which hopefully will set me up for another general manager, managing director role. So obviously it's magnificent leading the business or co-leading the business with Luca. Long term though, I would like to run a FMCG business on my own. But I think the learning environment that I'm in now is fantastic. We've got a great culture, as we touched on. We're very supportive of each other. But longer term, leading a bigger business by myself would be the preference. And
Great conversations, guys. Really enjoyed the journeys so far. Now, we're going to finish with a reflection back. So if you could talk to your younger self and say, hey, look, I've got a long journey ahead of me. What have I learned so far? What piece of advice would you give? Now, you can either give your top piece of advice, you want to chunk it up to 3. That's up to you. But Alanna, let's start with you. What would you say?
I would say it's so important to just stay curious. Just always seek that learning opportunity and understanding more about the world, more about the business you work in, more about people around you. I just think the more questions you ask and the more inquisitive you are, first of all, it makes you seem like you're engaging and interesting and want to know about other people. But also, I think it helps you understand more about the world around you and how things work. And essentially, businesses are complex places. And if you stay in your lane and you just think about your function, then you don't get to see the bigger picture. So it's so important to just try and understand what everybody's doing around you, how your piece fits into the bigger pie, and just stay curious. Yeah.
I love it. That's a great piece of advice. Grant, what would you give something different as your pearl of wisdom?
Just take calculated risks in your career and back yourself, right? So recognize if confidence is an issue, recognize that it is an issue, and work through ways in terms of how to address that. So I think loyalty is good, and staying in an organization can be a good thing. But I simply wouldn't be in the role that I'm in now had I not taken that calculated risk to leave Lion and to join Fever-Tree. But find some supporters and back yourself, have that confidence to make that calculated risk, because if you don't, then I think you can still have a meaningful career. But at the end of your career, I don't think that you'll maximize your true potential. So work through what different opportunities look like and back yourself, have the confidence to make that decision.
Right. I think combined, those are 2 really nice pieces of advice. I think if you maintain that curious mindset and don't worry too much about stepping into the unknown and taking a risk, because as one of our previous guests said, I think it might have been Caroline Waite, who's now the CEO of Stuart Alexander, what's the worst that can go wrong? You know, nothing's impossible to kind of change. If it doesn't quite work out, that's okay. Try again. And if you've got this curious mindset, then there's still learning from it anyway.
Always be learning.
Yeah. Fantastic. Guys, that's been brilliant. Really enjoyed the conversation, learning more about Fever-Tree. It feels that you're on the cusp of this new journey, this new space you're moving into, which I can't wait to see where it goes and where else it turns up in my life as well as a brand. So awesome. Really enjoyable. And always, guys, thanks to you all for listening. We had our latest stats out, almost 5,000 listeners now, which we're very excited by. So if some of you are listening and not connected to AXR and wondering who this business is that keeps interviewing these leaders, we're interested in your career. And we put a lot out there to help you understand what a career looks like. to help enable you to make good decisions so you can be curious and take those risks. Because if you have a bit of career knowledge behind you, then it's a lot easier to do that. Trust me. Lots we can give you. So reach out to me and my team. You get access to a bunch of assets, monthly reports on who's moved where, industry-leading salary guides, latest one coming up quite soon. Lots more we can help you with. So from me, Mike Dixon of AXR Recruitment and Search, thank you for listening. And we'll be back soon with more episodes, insights, and amazing guests to help your future in sales and marketing.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed today's podcast from AXR Recruitment and Search. We're passionate about helping you get the most out of your sales and marketing career. Keep listening as we bring you more career insights and advice from Australia's inspiring sales and marketing leaders. See you next time on Your Future in Sales and Marketing.